Hello, my friends. Welcome back. Today we are going to talk about a city that should not exist, a city that was burned to the ground more than 2,000 years ago, a city that was buried under sand and silence for centuries. And yet, today, the whole world knows its name. What if the most powerful city in ancient history belonged to your ancestors? What if the ruins that archaeologists call one of the greatest discoveries in human history were built by your people? What if the blood of the kings who changed the world runs in your veins? Today we talk about Persepolis. And if you are Iranian, this story is yours. Before we begin, tell me where you are watching from today. Just your city or your country in the comments. One word is enough. I want to know where in the world our stories are reaching. Now, let us go back, far back, to a time when Persia was the center of the world. Imagine standing on a giant stone platform. The platform is 12 meters high. It is massive. It is perfectly cut from solid rock. Around you are columns, enormous columns. Some of them are 20 meters tall. They are so perfectly built that they have stood for 2,500 years. And they are still standing today. This is Persepolis. In the Persian language, the name is Takht-e-Jamshid, the throne of Jamshid, a name from legend. A name from the deep mythological heart of Iran. But the Greeks called it Persepolis, the city of the Persians. And that name traveled across the world, and that name stayed. Persepolis was not a normal city. People did not live there in the ordinary sense. There were no markets, no ordinary houses, no children playing in the streets. Persepolis was something else entirely. It was a statement, a declaration to the entire world. It said, "Look at what we have built. Look at what we are capable of. We are Persia, and we are the greatest civilization on earth." The man who ordered Persepolis to be built was Darius the First. He became king in 522 BC. He inherited an already enormous empire. But Darius was not a man who was satisfied with what already existed. He wanted something more, something permanent, something that would speak to the future. He chose a location in the heartland of Persia. In the region called Pars, the ancient homeland of the Persian people, the place where it all began. Construction started around 518 BC. It continued for more than 50 years under Darius, then under his son Xerxes. Then under Xerxes' son Artaxerxes. 3 generations of kings, building one vision, one statement, one city. Tens of thousands of workers came from across the empire, from Egypt and Babylon and Greece and India, skilled craftsmen, stonemasons, architects, sculptors, painters. They were not slaves. This is something important to understand. Historical records show that workers at Persepolis were paid. They received wages. They received food rations. Some received extra pay for skilled work in a world where slave labor was completely normal. Persia paid its builders. This was extraordinary for its time. The stones were massive. Some weighed many tons. They were cut with breathtaking precision. No mortar was used between the stones. They were cut so perfectly that they held together through their own weight and their own exactness. 2,500 years of earthquakes, 2,500 years of wind and heat and cold. And many of those stones have not moved a single millimeter. That is not just construction, that is mastery. The heart of Persepolis was the Apadana, the great audience hall of Darius. It could hold 10,000 people at one time. 10,000 inside one hall. The ceiling was supported by 72 columns. Each column was 20 meters tall. The columns were so perfectly proportioned that architects today still study them, still try to understand exactly how the Persians achieved that balance between strength and elegance. On the walls of the Apadana staircase, carvings, extraordinary carvings. They stretch for many meters, and they show something remarkable. Delegations, representatives from every nation in the Persian Empire, walking, bringing gifts, coming to honor the Shah. There are Egyptians, Babylonians, Greeks, Indians, Ethiopians, Arabs, Armenians, people from Central Asia, people from the edges of the known world, all of them carved in stone, all of them preserved for 2,500 years. And look at how they are shown. Each group wears their own traditional clothes. Each group brings their own traditional gifts. Each group is shown with dignity, with respect. Nobody is shown as inferior. Nobody is shown in chains. Nobody is humiliated. This was not an accident. This was a message. Persia ruled the world, and Persia respected the world. This is what made the Achaemenid Empire different. This is what made it last. Many historians call the Apadana carvings one of the greatest artistic achievements of the ancient world. And when you look at them, even in photographs, it is not difficult to understand why. The detail is astonishing. The faces are individual. The animals are alive. The movement is frozen in stone, but you can feel the procession moving. You can almost hear the footsteps. The Nowruz celebrations happened at Persepolis. Nowruz, the Persian New Year, the first day of spring, one of the oldest celebrations in human history, more than 3,000 years old. Representatives from across the empire came to Persepolis for Nowruz. They came to honor the Shah. They came to renew their loyalty. They came to celebrate the new year together. Persian and non-Persian, all together on this great platform. Under this extraordinary sky, Nowruz still exists today. Iranian families across the world still celebrate it. They still set the Haftzin table. They still gather together on the first day of spring. They still feel something ancient and unbroken connecting them to thousands of years of history. If you are Iranian and you celebrate Nowruz, you are doing exactly what your ancestors did in Persepolis 2,500 years ago. That continuity is breathtaking, and if you are enjoying this journey through Persian history, please subscribe to our channel right now. Every subscriber helps us keep telling these stories. Stories that belong to you. Stories that deserve to be heard. Now, let us talk about the night that changed everything. 330 BC, Alexander of Macedonia had defeated the Persian army. He had captured city after city. He had marched across the empire that Darius and Xerxes and Artaxerxes had built. And now he stood at the gates of Persepolis. The city surrendered. Alexander entered. He took the enormous treasury, the wealth of the greatest empire in the ancient world. Gold and silver and precious objects accumulated over generations. And then came the night of the fire. There are different stories about what happened. Some ancient sources say it was a deliberate act of revenge, revenge for the burning of Athens by Xerxes 150 years earlier. Other sources suggest it started accidentally during a celebration, a wild party, too much wine, a torch dropped. A fire that spread too fast to stop. Nobody knows for certain. The ancient sources disagree, and that uncertainty has lasted 2,300 years. What we know for certain is this: one night, Persepolis burned. The wooden roofs of the great halls collapsed. The columns fell. The painted walls were blackened. The most magnificent city in the ancient world became a field of ash and broken stone. Alexander himself, some sources say, stood and watched the fire and felt something he did not expect: regret. He looked at what was burning, he understood what was being lost, and he felt regret, but the fire could not be stopped. In a single night, the throne of the world became ruins, and here is where the story becomes truly extraordinary. For centuries, Persepolis disappeared. The ruins were covered slowly by sand and soil. The local people knew the place. They told stories about it. They called it Takht-e-Jamshid, the throne of Jamshid. They connected it to the legendary kings of the Shahnameh. They kept the memory alive in the way that Iranians have always kept memory alive, through stories, through poetry, through the stubborn refusal to forget. European travelers began visiting the ruins in the 16th and 17th centuries. They saw the columns, they saw the carvings, they saw the inscriptions in a script nobody could read. And they were astonished. What civilization built this? What people were capable of this scale, this precision, this beauty? The answer was always there, in the stone, in the carvings, in the procession of nations walking across the walls of the Apadana. Persia built this. The ancestors of the Iranian people built this, and they built it to last forever. Serious archaeological excavation began in the 1930s. An Oriental Institute team from the University of Chicago worked at the site for years. They uncovered treasures of knowledge. Thousands of clay tablets were found, administrative records, lists of workers and their wages, records of food distribution, the bureaucratic heartbeat of an ancient empire preserved in clay for 2,500 years. Those tablets told a story that surprised many Western scholars. The Persian Empire was not the cruel tyranny that Greek sources had described. It was organized. It was sophisticated. It was, for its time, remarkably humane. Now, let us talk about the journey from Persepolis to Tehran. Persepolis is in Fars province, in southern Iran, near the modern city of Shiraz. Shiraz, the city of poets, the city of Hafez and Saadi, the city of gardens and roses, and the most beautiful Persian poetry ever written. It is not a coincidence that Persepolis and Shiraz are neighbors. This region is the heart of Persian civilization. It always was. For many centuries after the fall of the Achaemenid Empire, the center of Iranian power moved. It moved to different cities in different eras, to Ctesiphon under the Parthians and Sasanians, to Isfahan under the Safavids, to Tabriz, to Qazvin, and then, relatively recently in the long story of Iran, to Tehran. Tehran became the capital under the Qajar dynasty in 1786. At that time, it was a small town, nothing remarkable, nothing that suggested it would one day become a city of 15 million people. The capital of one of the most strategically important countries in the world. But history chose Tehran, and Tehran grew. Today, Tehran is a vast and complex city, ancient mountains behind it, a desert in front of it. Traffic and noise and millions of stories happening simultaneously. It is a city of contradictions. Ultra-modern shopping centers next to ancient bazaars, young people speaking English and French next to grandmothers who have never left their neighborhood. Street art on walls next to classical Persian calligraphy. Tehran is not Persepolis. It does not have the grandeur. It does not have the silence. It does not have the stone columns rising 20 meters into the blue Persian sky. But Tehran carries Persepolis inside it, in the language its people speak, in the poetry its people quote from memory. In the Nowruz celebrations that fill its streets every spring. In the fierce pride that Iranians carry, the knowledge that their civilization was great long before many other civilizations existed. Long before many modern nations were even imagined. The distance from Persepolis to Tehran is about 900 kilometers, but the real distance is 2,500 years, and somehow the connection is still alive, still felt, still real. Write in the comments, have you ever visited Persepolis? Or do you dream of visiting one day? Tell me, I would love to know. What does Persepolis mean today? It means something different to different people. To archaeologists, it is one of the most important sites in human history. To historians, it is a window into the greatest empire of the ancient world. To architects, it is a masterclass in proportion and precision. To artists, it is an inspiration that has never stopped giving. But to Iranians, it means something more personal than all of that. It means we were here, we built this, we were great, not in a distant, abstract, historical way, but in a real and physical and permanent way. The stones are still there, the carvings are still there, the columns are still standing. You can go and touch them. You can stand on the same platform where Darius stood, where Xerxes stood, where delegations from every corner of the ancient world came to pay their respect. That connection between the present and the ancient past, that is one of the most powerful things a civilization can have. And Iran has it, fully, completely, undeniably. The fire of Alexander burned the wooden roofs, it blackened the walls, it collapsed the ceilings, but it could not burn the stone, it could not burn the carvings, it could not burn the memory. And it absolutely could not burn the spirit of a people who have been telling this story in poetry and in pride for 2,500 years. Persepolis is gone, and Persepolis is still here. Both things are true. And that, my friends, is the Persian way. Just like Persepolis survived the fire and the centuries and the silence, your English will survive every difficult moment in your learning journey, every word you do not understand yet, every grammar rule that confuses you. Every day, when progress feels slow, the ruins are still standing after 2,500 years. Your effort will also build something that lasts. Thank you for listening to this story today. I hope it moved you. I hope it made you proud, and if this history belongs to you, and I hope it made you amazed if you are discovering it for the first time, if you enjoyed this story, please give it a like. It takes 1 second. And it helps more people find stories like this one. Thank you. Until next time, my friends, keep learning, keep listening, and keep enjoying the beautiful journey of English. And now, let us look at some words from today's story. Our first word is declaration. A declaration is a strong and public statement. It says, "This is who we are. This is what we believe. This is what we stand for." A declaration is not quiet. It is meant to be heard. It is meant to be seen. Think about a person who stands up in front of a crowd and says something important and brave. That is a declaration. In our story, Persepolis was not just a city. It was a declaration. It told the whole ancient world, we are Persia. We are powerful. We are capable of this beauty, and we are here to stay. Our next word is precision. Precision means extreme accuracy and exactness. When something is done with precision, it is done perfectly, without mistakes, without sloppiness. Every measurement is exact. Every cut is clean. Every detail is correct. Think about a surgeon operating on a patient. Every movement must be precise. Every cut must be in exactly the right place. In our story, the stone cutting at Persepolis was done with extraordinary precision. The stones fit together so perfectly that no mortar was needed. 2,500 years later, they have still not moved. Now let us look at the word delegation. A delegation is a group of people who officially represent their country or their organization. They travel somewhere important. They speak on behalf of their people. They carry their culture with them. Think about the Olympics. Each country sends a delegation, athletes and officials who represent their nation. In our story, the carvings on the Apadana staircase show delegations from every nation in the Persian Empire, each group bringing gifts. Each group dressed in their own traditional clothes, coming to honor the Shah of Persia. Our next word is humane. Humane means showing kindness and respect toward other people, treating others with care and dignity, not being cruel. Not being unnecessarily harsh, a humane system considers the well-being of the people inside it. In our story, the Persian Empire was described by historians as remarkably humane for its time. Workers were paid, conquered peoples were respected. Different religions were allowed. This was not common in the ancient world. Most empires of that era ruled through fear and force alone. The next word is continuity. Continuity means an unbroken connection between the past and the present. Something that continues without stopping, without being completely destroyed. When something has continuity, the thread of history is still intact, still connected, still alive. In our story, Nowruz is a perfect example of continuity. Iranians celebrated Nowruz at Persepolis 2,500 years ago, and Iranian families around the world still celebrate Nowruz today, the same celebration across 2.5 millennia. That is extraordinary continuity. Now, let us talk about the word regret. Regret is the feeling you have when you wish something had not happened, when you look at a decision and you feel pain about it. You cannot go back and change it, but you wish you could. Regret is heavier than simple sadness. It carries responsibility. In our story, some ancient sources suggest that Alexander felt regret after the burning of Persepolis. He stood and watched the fire. He saw what was being destroyed. And he understood too late the magnitude of what was being lost. The feeling that came over him, that was regret. Our next word is excavation. Excavation means carefully digging into the earth to find things that are hidden or buried. Archaeological excavation is a precise and patient process. You do not just dig randomly, you work slowly. You document everything you find. You try to understand not just what you find, but what it means. In our story, serious excavation at Persepolis began in the 1930s. Archaeologists uncovered thousands of clay tablets, administrative records, lists of workers and wages. These discoveries completely changed how historians understood the Persian Empire. Now let us look at the word contradiction. A contradiction is when two things exist together that seem opposite to each other. Things that should not go together, but do. When something is both one thing and its opposite at the same time. In our story, Tehran is described as a city of contradictions, ultra-modern buildings next to ancient bazaars, young people speaking foreign languages next to grandmothers who have never left their neighborhood. These contradictions do not make Tehran less. They make it more complex, more human, more real. Our next word is magnitude. Magnitude means the great size or importance of something. When something has magnitude, it is not small, it is not ordinary. It carries real weight, real significance. Think about the difference between dropping a cup of water and flooding an entire city. Both involve water. But the magnitude is completely different. In our story, we use magnitude when talking about what was lost when Persepolis burned. Alexander understood, perhaps too late, the magnitude of the destruction, the sheer size of what was being erased from the world forever. And our last word for today is undeniably. Undeniably means in a way that cannot be questioned or doubted. Something that is so clear and so obvious that no reasonable person can argue against it. If something is undeniable, it is simply true. You cannot escape it. You cannot debate it. It is there. In our story, we say that Iran's connection to its ancient past is undeniable. The language is still there. The poetry is still there. The celebrations are still there. The stones of Persepolis are still there. This connection between modern Iran and its ancient civilization is not a theory. It is not a belief. It is undeniably real. And that is all for today, my friends. I hope these words help you. I hope the story of Persepolis stays with you. And I hope that somewhere, someday you stand on that great stone platform and feel 2,500 years of history beneath your feet. Until next time, keep learning, keep listening, and keep growing.